an NAACP who wants to stay relevant, or a Barack Obama who wants to get elected, they have a very selective view of which histories they're going to discuss. But you need honest thinkers out there giving people the full scope of black history, which is more than a history of what whites have done to blacks. That's not the sum of black history in this country, but you might think it is listening to some on the left discuss our past.
There comes a time when one must ask a position that is neither, or one must take a position that's neither safe, nor politic, nor popular. He must take it because his conscience tells him it's the right thing to do. That's why we're here today. That's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay, this is pathetic, but it works on the general public. What he's doing is he wants the general public to associate himself and his group and their position to Dr. Martin Luther King. Because Dr. Martin Luther King fought for civil rights, black people everywhere, and he's a freaking hero. So he's saying, if you disagree with us, you disagree with Dr. Martin Luther King. But here's the problem. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe. Well, the way you tell the story about the Bruce's Beach, how much safer of a position can you take? Nor politic. But let's see who gains the most from this. That would be you, Mr. Bradford, with your new position about reparations. Supervisor Hahn gets more of the black vote, and it just looks really good on her resume. Nor popular. Well, I think this is pretty popular, the position that you've taken with the story that you've made up. I think Martin Luther King was referring to someone like myself when he says, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right. And my conscience tells me what you guys are doing is wrong.
Good morning. My name is Steve Bradford, and I'm the senator from the 35th Senate District, just a little east of here. And I'm the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, and I'm also the appointee to the new formed State Reparations Task Force that starts this year.
Swear or affirm.
I do solemnly swear or affirm.
Okay,
and this job is monumental. It's historic. Slavery is this country's original sin, a stain on our history, and a continued open wound.
You know, I said, and it's probably get me in trouble, but I said to some of my colleagues recently, so I know that it's an issue, but it seems like every single day on television I'm talking about race, and it's because of the news cycle, it's in the news, but sometimes I get so tired of talking about it, I want to just go, this is over, can we move on?
And if you talk about it, it exists.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like it exists and we refuse to talk about it, but making it a bigger issue than it needs to be is the problem we have.
So I understand.
So 8 black people and an Asian, their task is to find racist things that were done in the past in California and to come up with a value amount. Now, do you think there's any, so if Bruce Beach is any indication of what this task force is going to do, it's obvious there's not going to be much historical research done. What they'll do is they'll just look for events where a black person was involved and a white person was involved. They'll package it. They'll give it to Senator Bradford. He'll go up, make a stump speech, and put it in his cauldron, and he'll throw in some KKK and some violence and some other made-up stuff, and the general public will eat it up. And they'll be writing checks for $50 million here, there, wherever. The problem with a task force like this is they'll never do a Zoom meeting where they say, all right, guys, we're done, and thanks for giving us the opportunity. No, they will always be looking for a place where reparations can be applied. It literally will never end. If you try to end it, you'll be a racist.
You are all charged with helping California acknowledge that. Although the horrors of slavery may have begun in the past, past, its harms are felt every single day by Black Americans in the present. Those harms are felt in unequal education and
Why, you may ask? Because the teachers' unions don't want them, and the teachers' unions control the White House when it comes to schools.
and health outcomes. They are felt in the staggering inequality of wealth in this country. They are felt in tragedies like the murder of George Floyd.
You know, as our country reckons with our painful legacy of racial injustice, California, again, is poised to lead the way. Lead the way towards a more equitable and inclusive future for all.
I am the author of SB 796, the bill that will finally allow the Bruce Beach to be returned to its rightful owners, the Bruce's family. Let me take this off. The residents of Manhattan Beach and all of California face an uncomfortable history dictated, I should say, by racism and fear, and resulting in the loss of land and property. Sadly, the Bruce story is not unique story here in California and across this nation. As stated in 1912, Charles and Willa Bruce were a young black couple who created the West Coast's first beach resort owned by and meant for black Americans. Under their leadership, Bruce's Beach became a lively and flourishing resort. Soon, a half dozen other black families purchased land and established their own property right here in this area.
So why is Manhattan Beach never praised for being the first city on the West Coast to allow black beach ownership and a black business? It's ridiculous.
As Manhattan Beach black community grew, resentment, animosity, and hatred from the city's white residents was growing as well.
Here we go, just making up shit again. That the white residents of Manhattan Beach were so angry at the Bruces that their animosity and hatred grew.
Between the years of 1912 and 1924, these black-owned properties experienced tremendous amounts of hatred, harassment, hostility, and violence.
Bruce Beach Lodge went 12 years uninterrupted with very successful parties and nobody being hassled, and the police never called once.
Including at the hands of the Ku Klux Klan, who cold-bloodedly threatened the Bruces and the families who dared to enjoy their property.
There has never been a connection between the KKK and the Bruce family or any other family in that area. It is all 100% made up by Bradford and others.
They burned the property, as Supervisor Hahn stated. They slashed the tires of the guests and even threatened their lives. And again, when the harassment and intimidation by the Klan didn't work, that's when the city stepped in to do the bidding for them.
There have been no ties between the city council back then and the KKK. None whatsoever. This again is 100% made up malarkey. Bullcrap.
In 1924, as stated, the Manhattan Beach Board of Trustees seized the land, condemning it under the guise of building a public park.
And a public park was built just 4 years later. That is a fact.
The Bruce family was robbed of their land. They were robbed of their business. They were robbed of their legacy, but most importantly, they were robbed of their dignity.
The fact is, you and Dwayne Shepard are the ones who have robbed the Bruces of their legacy and of their dignity. Shame on you.
They were forced to move and live the rest of their lives working for someone else, all because of the color of their skin.
The Bruce's death certificates clearly show that they were retired when they passed away. Amazing, all this stuff made up by politicians, which the media buys, and so does the public.
Earlier this week, the City of Manhattan Beach City Council adopted a statement of acknowledgement condemning the history of the Bruce's Beach. But I say it was tepid at best. It was far from a full-throated apology that this community, this state, and this nation deserves. And they clearly did not endorse what we're trying to accomplish here today.
Which is to rewrite history and to steal $70 million from the taxpayers' pockets.
This is why we're gathered here today. We're here today following through on the work that was first started by the former mayor of this city, Mitch Ward. Mitch Ward, this city's first and only African-American city council person and mayor. On Monday, we are introducing a crucial bill to make the right the wrong that has been inflicted on this black family. We will change the state law to allow the family to get their land back from LA County.
The law that was passed years ago to protect its citizens from shady politicians giving away public land to private entities for private benefit.
After so many years, we will right this injustice. But obviously this bill isn't enough. It will not reverse 100 years of actions, but it represents a step in the right direction. Racism in this country and in this state and in the South Bay never disappeared. I grew up here.
Making it as though no changes have been made, that racism hasn't dissipated. This is a joke. This is unfair.
Here in the South Bay. My family was the first black family on my street. I rode my bike with my white friends through this beach as a kid, and I know the difference between how I was treated and my friends were treated.
Sounds like you felt safe enough to ride around the town with your white friends who took you in and treated you as a friend around on your bicycles throughout the city of Manhattan Beach.
But recent events have proven that now is the time for major change, and the public wants to see justice done, not hollow lip service and empty promises. Legislation like SB 796 and Dr. Shirley Weber, who's now our Secretary of State, AB 3121, will explore the possibilities of reparations and set a powerful precedent for compensation that is owed to African Americans in this country.
Reparations are payments made by one country to another country after war didn't know black people were a country, or that America was at war with black people.
This bill will set yet another example of our ability to recognize and actually respond to the racist wrongs of the past if we choose to do so. As a member of the task force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans, I think if you can inherit generational wealth in this country, you should be able to inherit generational debt.
No idea what that means.
And this state, this nation owes a debt to the African American community. I hope that the action we take today will serve as a turning point in California's history and will be remembered as the beginning of a long journey towards
Stupidity.